doing your timeline well so that A, you're the most profitable, most successful, and you don't lose your mind. Hello and welcome back to the Dream Printing Podcast. I am so glad you're here. You're in for a treat. Today is the beginning of our Planner Printing 101 series. It's a 3-part series, and today we're going to be talking about timelines because it's really critical. Probably one of the most critical things, apart from the design of your product, is doing your timeline well so that A, you're the most profitable, most successful, and you don't lose your mind. Because that can happen. When I was getting started, I lost my mind. No, I didn't really. But I started my business in 3 months, and it was really difficult. And because of that time constraint, I had to work with a printer that was fantastic, great quality, but way too expensive. So I'm kind of like your planner printing fairy godmother because I want to help you create a business that's going to actually create profit, which, by the way, spoiler alert, if you are a Christian entrepreneur, profit is not evil. Profit is the self-care of your business. You have to have profit in order to bless your family, in order to hire people, in order to expand, in order to get yourself out of the business a little bit, to do other things. And so you have to make money at the end of the day. And also the money you make from your planner sales is what you are going to use next year to buy additional planners or your next round of Bible studies, journals, whatever it is. So your timeline's really critical. And some of the things you're going to learn in this lesson today might be upsetting. It might be upsetting. And I hate upsetting people. Not a fan of it. Not a fan of it at all. Actually, a lot of people jump into my print school program, and when they finally grab my magical timeline tool, which is one of my amazing little resources I've built for planner students in the Dream Printing community, you're able to check out my little timeline estimator, and it's basically where you can plug in today's date and it'll spit out 5 different scenarios. Actually, it's 6 different scenarios based on which path you take, and it tells you what your options are. Like, do you have enough time to do boat shipping? Do you have enough time to get the design done in time? Do you have enough time to get your sample printed in time? And it just kind of answers those questions. And that's really what I was doing and spending a lot of my time on when I was working with people one-on-one, was like, Polly, just give me the timeline. Like, is this possible? Can I do it? And if you're watching this episode on the day it airs, which is around the end of November, what day is it? Oh my gosh, let's see. It's the 28th, 29th when you're watching this. I'm recording it early. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late for a 2024 planner. Spoiler alert, it's too late. It's too late, baby. It's too late. The only way that it would not be too late is if you were doing a digital planner, which isn't a bad idea. You can do a digital planner if you want to do a digital planner. That's totally fine. I'm going to walk you through in this lesson my timeline and what I suggest to you as your fairy godmother or planner helper, so that you can be successful in your 2025 planner. Because sometimes we have to wait for things. And that's okay. I'm going to grab my timeline right here and talk to you about what I'm going to do. And just a little bit about it. So I would highly recommend grabbing a piece of paper and a pen. And just remember, you don't have to do it the way that I do it. You don't have to do it the way that I do it. But I want you to be successful and to be profitable and to achieve the ultimate goal, which I don't know if this is the ultimate goal, but one of my goals is to sell out of the planners. And I like to have about, 95% sold out by January. By the end of January. And so that way there's a couple trickles left, in February and March for people, but that's my goal. And so in order to do that, you need to set it up well. So I'm going to talk to you about when I want my planners in my hand, when do I want to launch, when do I get started, when do I print my samples, and when do I actually start talking about launch. And I'm going to talk about the 4 phases of this, but I kind of like to start with the end in mind. That's one of my favorite tools in my timeline estimator is what day do you need them by? What day do you need them by? And I actually used that to build my numbers today. I went into my timeline and went ahead and built those numbers so I could start preparing it for you to talk to you about this today. And you can follow suit. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive into that. The first question is, when do I want to launch? When do I want to launch? And that's the first question. And you should write that down. When do I want to launch? Now, you could be watching this and you want to make a planner, and that's great. You could be watching this and you want to make a Easter devotional. So your answer might be totally different. So, you can absolutely change what you're doing. I'm just going to put my notes up so I can follow along. When do I want to launch this? Now, for me, I think it's really important. Like, let's say the planner, people really start using it in December. You start planning ahead for the month ahead. And so you don't want to go, oh, well, it's August. I still have time. People don't need the planner till January 1st. No, people want their planner. People want it early. Planner people want it early. You want to be launching that planner business in October. You want to be full on no later than October, truly. And I don't say this to break your heart. Maybe you're finding this YouTube episode or, and it's September and you're like, no, and I don't want to break your heart, but go ahead and start working on the next year. It's totally fine. You're just going to do it better. You're going to have the time to do it right. And it's better to do it right. This is not a microwave process. It's an intentional process, and your customers will be able to see the intention that you took. And the successful print school students that I see going through took their time, and now they're launching successfully, because it's not just that you create the thing, but then you launch the thing, and you need time for both steps of it. That's why I have, when you sign up for print school, you get my print school program to help you go from idea to fully printed product, but then you go through launch school to go from I have a product or even just a sample, and now I've launched it to the world and I'm shipping it to them and I have a website and all of that. It's 2 steps. And that whole process should take you about 9 months. We give you access to print school for 2 years. So you have more time with it than you really need, but I want to make sure that you're fully equipped. So when do you launch? Let's say you're launching an Easter devotional. You want to launch it at least 2 months in advance of Easter, because you want to have time for people to get it and then go, you know what? I want some more. I want some gifts. I want to give this to my church. You want to give people time. Same for the planner. Like, let's say, January 1st is when people really start using it. People start kind of using it in December. You want to have it available for Black Friday, for holiday sales. You want people to get it and then for it to have time to spark, right? So let's say people are getting it in their hands November 1st, well, then there's time for that exposure so people can see it and then order it and get it in time for Christmas. So I always launch my planner around October 1st. Other planner companies start launching in September. And so, you might think, oh, I want to start a planner business, and it's September. It's like, well, people are already done. And so anyways, you have to think far in advance with printing, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I know it's hard to stick with these longer term goals and processes, but I promise you, doing it slowly over time, it's not as overwhelming. Like, you can take your time with the ideation, you can take your time with the design, and it doesn't have to be something you spend like every waking hour on and stay up late at night and sacrifice your mental health or your physical health. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. So launching October. So that's 3 months before they actually need the product. But I'd want to go ahead and have it in people's hands and let that organic marketing happen, right? So when do I need to have my planners in my hands in order to launch October 1st? I love having my planners arrive to my warehouse around mid-September. That's ideal. It doesn't always happen that way. I've had years where my planners didn't come till the beginning of November. I think that was the latest it ever happened. But maybe one year it was December at the very beginning. And what happens is, and I see this with some students, is you take too long and then you don't order in time, and then they have to pay for rush shipping, and they have to pay for air shipping versus boat shipping, and it's so expensive. You lose a lot of your margin when you have to rush ship something. You've done this, you've checked out, and like the overnight air is like a lot, and so I don't want you to do that. What you need to do when you work with my printer is you order well in advance, you let it take your time, and while your products are printing and while your products are shipping to you, I'll call that like the turkeys in the oven, you can work on your marketing. So when do I like to have my planners in my hands? I like to have them mid-September. So this is the truth of when you actually have to get started if you want your planners to arrive mid-September. That means you would need to start printing if you're going the slow route, the most profitable route. Going the slowest route, you would need your printing to start June 5th. June 5th. Now, did I do that this year? No, I didn't, because this past year I was vetting like 5 different printers because I wanted to give my print school students more options, and I will not recommend a printer unless I've personally used them, not just for a sample, but for a mass order run. And mass order is like when you order the big kahuna of planners. That's not like proper terminology, but I think you get it. You would need to start printing in June. And that means I need to order my sample April 14th. So this is the things that the magic calculator spits out to me. Now these estimates are juicy, they are full of margin, and they are a goal, right? So that means if I'm going to have my sample printed April 14th, I need to start working on design in January, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start working on my design in January and February and March. I'm going to finalize it beginning of April, and that's when I'm going to ask for my sample to be printed. My sample will arrive in 30 days after that. So the sample usually comes about a month after you've ordered it or less. And then there's obviously some time when you get that sample in your hands and you're like, woohoo, here's my sample, it came to life. You're like, oh, actually, I think I want to change the margin on this page, or I think I want to move something around, or I think I want a different color strap, whatever it is. You might want to change some stuff, or you say, no, it's perfect, I'm ready to move forward, let's go. My timeline has about a 2-week buffer in there to make tweaks and changes on the sample. I like to make sure that my files are as perfect as possible before I get my sample printed, because I want to use my sample as my marketing tools. So what I do is I have all my samples, and that's what I do my photo shoot with. My main photo shoots are usually done with my sample products. And then I can get started on that photo shoot as early as May. I don't usually start that early, but that's the ideal world. So let's say you wanted to have your planners in your warehouse by November 1st. You would need to start printing July 17th, and you need to order a sample May 26th. Now, if you end up going the air shipping route, you would need to start printing until August 22nd. So that's a little look into timeline. So I always get a sample printed. It's so critical. You cannot skip that step. But I'm going to get started in January and February with my design. And that's why if you're watching this around the time that it came out, now is a great time to jump into print school, to go ahead and get started, to start dreaming in the nooks and crannies of this time and start the process so you can start whatever writing you need to do, whatever ideation you need to do before you move into phase 2, which is design. Now there's 4 main phases to the dream printing method, which I teach in my workshop. You can learn these more in depth. HoracioPrinting.com/workshop is where you can find that workshop. But the first phase is ideation. And I go through this more in the workshop, but I'm just going to only share the timeline right now. Ideation is where you take it out of your brain and onto paper. That process takes about a month to 2 months. The first time you build a more intense product like a planner, it's It's going to take a little longer because you're working out all the kinks, which I have had students book like a VIP day with me where we like sit down for a day and just like get it done, which is so fun. I love that. That's like my favorite thing to do. It's like pretty much my love language. Planner creation and thick paper, those are my love languages, along with like a iced caramel oat milk latte. So anyways, if you're wanting to figure out a Christmas gift for me, an iced caramel oat milk latte would be perfect. Okay, so ideation takes about a month to 2 months. The design process can take, I would like to say, an estimate of 2 months. It can take a little longer, especially if you're learning how to do it yourself, which we give you that training and templates in print school. I personally love to outsource, and I do have 3 amazing designers that I give you in print school that you can hire, get a quote from them. They'll range anywhere from, I'd say, about $1,000 to $2,000, depending on your product and like how long it is and stuff. But what's exciting is when you're building something that you're going to recreate year over year, like a planner, like I don't pay that much to just get the dates changed. So it's kind of like building something the first time takes a little more, but then the second and third year, that's really where you see the growth and the margin and the profit. It took me about 1.5 years to leave my corporate career and make Horacio full-time income. But you want it done well. You only have one chance at a first impression with a new customer. So I do which we'll talk more about design in part 3 of this series. Our next episode is going to be all about finding the right printer, but this one is the timeline. So let me get back into the timeline. I have too many thoughts. Okay, ideation is about 1 to 2 months. Design is about 1 to 2 months. And then the sample printing is 1 month. And then the main printing is about 3 months if you do the boat shipping. So all in all, it's an 8-month process, which is why I highly recommend getting started as soon as possible. Look what just arrived. Shout out to my husband. Woohoo! Oat milk latte. Okay, anyways, back to the timeline. So you want to bake out about 8 months to make it happen. And that's the first thing that we do inside of print school is map out your timeline. So if you're interested in applying for a spot at print school, now is the time. The beginning of 2024 is the perfect time for you to get started. Go to HoracioPrinting.com/print school and you can learn more about print school and also about launch school. Now, the question I get a lot is, what's my first step? What's my first step? What's my first step? And do I need to go ahead and have it built out? Do I need to have my product fully ideated before I dive into print school? Because I see a lot of people getting tripped up on the first step. Usually what happens is people start to do research online of how do I get it printed and where do I go and how do I get started? And you start Googling everything and falling down all of these rabbit holes. Whereas I think the true first start is for you to go inward. Inside of you is the dream of what you want to create. And I think going inside and really looking at what you want to make, tapping into your why is the first step. Who are you making this for? Why does it matter? How do you want to help people? Because it's that why that's going to drive you through as you come across roadblocks. There'll be roadblocks like, I'm scared no one's going to buy it, or I have the fear of judgment or the fear of failure. And I get it. We all go through those same fears as we pursue a dream. And so the first step is to do that reflection and to start writing out, who is it for? What am I truly wanting to create? And these are some of the questions I ask you in the application for print school to help you in that ideation process and to help you in step 1. So step 1 is the application. You can go through, answer those questions in the survey, look at what those questions are, and they can help you process through step 1, which is going inward and figuring out what you want to create and why. And if you're like, oh, Polly, I know what I want to create, I already know why, then go ahead and apply And we can go through step 1 together, which is ideation. You start to build out page by page what you want, what the user flow is, and what you want to create and share with the world, and ultimately, create a legacy. So that's so exciting. Anyways, that was the timeline lesson. Hopefully you learned something, you had something to take away. Please drop a question or comment below in the chat. I read each and every one. If there's something you would like to see me cover on the Dream Printing podcast, I would love to cover it. Stay tuned for the next step of this series where I talk about how to find a printer and how to get the printing happening for your dream paper product. And then the third episode of this series is going to be all around design. So how to design it, the importance of design, intentional design. And so I'm super excited about that. These are the 3 steps to really kind of get you through Planner Business 101, Planner Printing 101, or any sort of luxury printing 101. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. Have an absolutely wonderful day. You are so loved.